Have you ever lived alone, and the moment you turn on the light, you feel like someone is staring at you from the darkness? This was the terrifying experience of a young man in Chicago, and it proved he was never imagining things. Story 1. The window across the alley. It was late October, just as the autumn nights began to chill. Emily, a 19-year-old college student, had stayed home all weekend to catch up on studying. Her parents around 11 p.m. She was curled up on the sofa with her laptop, half studying, half scrolling through. From the corner of her eye, the reflection on the sleepy Emily's heart pounded. She forced herself to slowly turn her head toward the window. She tried to laugh it off, telling herself she was only imagining things. But she could not shake the fear. She checked the locks on every window, then finally relaxed a little and went to sleep. Boo! Around 3 a.m., Emily woke up because of a noise. A slow, deliberate scraping against the bedroom window. She did not move, almost holding her breath. The sound stopped. Then there was a whisper, too faint to make out, but clear enough to know someone was out there. She stayed silent in fear, not daring to scream, pretending to be asleep and unaware. The next morning, she called her parents and told them everything. They assumed she was just frightened to be home alone. But when her father inspected the window, he discovered long greasy smudges on the glass looking like fingerprints. He then checked the camera and found a thin figure in creepy clothing, face indistinct, trying to pry the door open. He was shocked and thought how lucky his daughter had been not to encounter something worse. Then he decided to go with her. She, Emily, never stayed alone in that house again. Transition to story 2. The apartment across the street. If the first story gave you chills, remember it is frightening enough to feel eyes on you at home where you are supposed to be safe. But what happens when you are in a more public, yet still isolating place, and that same feeling follows you? A young man named David had just moved into a small city apartment. The place was nothing special, one bedroom, a tiny kitchen but affordable and close to work. The only odd thing was the old building across the narrow street. The top floor windows were always dark, except for one. Almost every night, at around 11:30, David would see a faint light in that single window, and every night, a shadow would appear behind the curtain. Someone was there, someone standing perfectly still. At first, David did not pay it much mind. People have strange habits. But after weeks he noticed something unsettling. That figure was not merely standing there, it was facing directly toward his apartment. No matter when he looked out late at night or early morning, the figure was there, watching. One night, frustrated and anxious, David decided to test it. He turned off his lights, then slowly stepped to the window, trying to blend into the darkness. Sure enough, the figure moved. Its head turned in time with his movements, his stomach tightened, his breath quickened. Whoever it was, they were not just standing there unconsciously. They were watching him. His legs went numb, unable to move. He wanted to shout and ask who it was. To please answer, he was not joking. Really? God damn it. Do not come here, he thought, begging silently, but the dark shape kept coming and moved faster. Suddenly, the wail of a police patrol car siren with flashing lights headed in his direction. The dark shape darted into the thick bushes and disappeared. At that moment, David snapped into a terrified clarity and ran to the police for help. A few days later, David told his landlord about it and asked who lived in that building. The landlord looked puzzled and said, "That top floor, it has been vacant for years." When David insisted he had seen someone, the landlord reluctantly handed him the keys so he could check for himself. That evening, just before the usual hour, David and the landlord crossed the street and climbed the dusty stairs to the top floor. The air was thick with mold. The walls were peeling from water damage. When they reached the apartment, the landlord unlocked the door. The room was completely empty, no furniture, no lights, no electricity. But on the far wall, directly facing David's apartment, there was a chair, and sitting on the chair was a single mannequin, dressed in old, torn clothing. Its head was tilted toward the window, its lifeless eyes staring at him. Yet deep down, David knew that was not the whole truth. He felt that somewhere in that place there were eyes watching him, and that made his instincts uneasy. He decided to move out within a month. Transition to story 3. The first story happened at home, the second, across the street, but the third, perhaps the most frightening of all, because it happened far away, in a remote place. Out in the wilderness, where there are no neighbors or police nearby. When someone watches you, the forest seems to close in. Story 3. The Voice in the Woods. In the summer of 2018, 5 friends planned a weekend camping trip in the Blue Ridge Mountains. They were all in their 20s, eager to rest and leave behind the noise of the city, carrying the curiosity of youth. After packing, they set off on the journey. At first, everything seemed fine when they reached their first stopping point. Slightly tired, they decided to camp. The first night by the lake was wonderful laughter around the fire, roasted marshmallows, the stars bright above. But on the second night, things began to change. Marcus, one of the group, swore he saw someone hiding behind the trees. The others teased him that it was probably just a deer or a black bear. The teasing and laughter continued late into the night as the group relaxed with drink, until a rustle from the bushes made everyone's skin crawl. A person holding a burning stick stood up and shouted, "Who the hell is that? Come out here." but silence answered. An unease spread through the campsite. That night, one of them woke to heavy breathing outside the tent. It moved slowly, in circles. Another heard footsteps. Another saw a hunched figure by the fire just sitting there, staring. By morning, they searched and discovered footprints in the dirt. Some were boot prints, others were bare. Nothing else remained. Driven by youthful curiosity and determination to find out the truth, they decided to risk staying one more night. That night, they sat close to the fire, trying to act normal. Around 2 a.m., they heard leaves rustle. Then a voice, soft, hoarse, whispering, came from the trees. Marcus swept his flashlight toward the sound. There, huddled behind a tree, was a man, completely naked, pale skin, eyes reflecting the light. He crawled back into the darkness on all fours. No one said a word. The fire crackled. The whole forest held its breath. The people began to tremble. They sat there scanning in every direction. Then, while everyone tried to steady themselves, one camper heard the slow zip of a tent. Bit by bit, someone was pulling it down. A scream shattered the silence. Everyone yelled at once. The zipper stuck, then was yanked up, followed by a series of heavy footsteps crashing into the woods. At that point, the young men's hearts broke. Shouts and curses rang out as they continued until near dawn, exhausted and panicked, just wishing for daylight to come quickly so they could escape that damned place. They had no idea how many hours had passed. At daybreak, they packed up and quietly left. When they reported it to a ranger, he only shook his head and said, "You are not the first. There are people living deep in the woods. Some only steal food, others..." He did not finish the sentence, but his dejected shake of the head said enough. After that, the group quickly completed their preparations to leave. Throughout the process, no one spoke of the troubling details. Each of them silently vowed never to camp again. OUTRO, closing reflection. 3 different stories, 3 different places. But they all share one chilling truth. Being watched is one of humanity's most primal fears. Whether at home, across the street, or deep in the woods sometimes, the scariest monsters are not hiding under the bed or in ghost stories. They are real people, and they are watching. So the next time you feel someone looking at you, maybe it is not your imagination.